This is Danny Cullip, and you're listening to the Fulham Focus podcast.
Hello, welcome to the Fulham Focus podcast. My name's Matt Wackler, and a frustrating disallowed goal from Josh Madger cost us a well-deserved point at home to Spurs this evening, as we missed the chance to claw ourselves out of the relegation zone because of a first-half own goal by Toshi. Our poor home record doesn't get any better, and we're no closer to knowing if we will get out of this mess or not. I've got Mark Wyatt and Don Love with me to go back over the game and to have a look ahead to Sunday's trip to Anfield, so let's go.
Fulham.
Before we start, everyone at Fulham Focus would like to pass on our best wishes to Kevin McDonald following the news this week that he requires a kidney replacement. We're all thinking of you, and hopefully you'll be back playing soon, Kev. We will still take you back at Fulham as a coach anytime. The place just wouldn't be the same without you. All right, guys, well, on to the Spurs game then. And there were a few changes to the side that drew at Palace, which I think is inevitable when there are 3 games in a week. As Collins John predicted on the last show, Mario Lemina replaced Anguissa. Ivan Cavallero came in to replace Bobby Reid, and Anthony Robinson replaced Kenny Tete, which meant that Ola Aina was back at right back. We started quite promisingly, didn't we? Loftus-Cheek had that run at the beginning, which ended with a weak shot. Then Anthony Robinson got another weak shot away that went well wide. Harrison Reid almost played Lookman in. It looked bright, didn't it, Mark?
Yeah, I think it did. I really enjoyed those kind of opening few minutes. I thought, especially from kickoff, we looked promising and we looked threatening, which the commentators didn't really expect and didn't seem too pleased with, to be honest. But no, I thought we actually started the game really well, and like you said, it felt like one of those games where you just needed that little good fortune, that little nick, and it almost happened in those early moments for us with those balls going through. But yeah, at the start of the game, I was pleased.
Yeah, I think for the first, what was it, 15, 16 minutes, we actually looked really decent. We had decent possession. We were making things happen. As you, I'll go back real quick. As you mentioned, changes to the lineup. I didn't have a problem with either of the changes. The 2 changes being, Lemina comes back in. I actually like Lemina over Anguissa. I think he's a good player. He's got great creativity and seems to make things happen going forward. And then, a lot of people online were saying, why Robinson over Tete? I think it was a little harsh that he didn't make the starting lineup, Teddy, there. But, Robinson's got an engine. And as other people have said in our little focus group, he's like a Ferrari who just runs all day. So I didn't have a problem with him being on there to help kind of contain Gareth Bale. So as far as changes, I was okay with both. And I agree. We looked pretty good in the start.
I think it's interesting as well, isn't it? How Anthony Robinson, that matchup against Matt Doherty, I thought was really interesting. And I find that when we've got, Madger and Cavallero and Lookman and players that have got that turn of pace, I think we like having, or rather Scott likes having Robinson there because he feels like he can kind of break the line a little bit. And I thought, it was quite interesting when Joe came on. I know we'll mention it later, but when Joe Bryan came on and Mitrovic was up front as well, it was almost like we wanted that service because Robinson's crossing isn't quite up to the standard that I think Joe's is, and indeed Kenny Tete's as well.
Yeah, Joe Bryan's just a bit rusty though, isn't he? How can you expect Joe Bryan to come in at this stage of the season, having played probably 10 minutes all season and make an impact? But we'll come on to that. Let's talk about the first half. And after that opening spell where we looked really good, Spurs came back into it. Gareth Bale blazed over from a free kick. Then Harry Kane should absolutely have scored in the 18th minute when he put his free header from a Sun cross right at Areola. But a minute later, we were carved open again. Dele Alli looked like he'd scored in his first start since the opening day, but it was soon awarded as an own goal. Anyone at fault here, lads?
I'll tell you, I think the goal actually just kind of summed up Fulham in the first half, and that was really bad passes given away in the midfield. We did this a lot. And actually, another one who I thought did not have a great game and gave a lot of balls away in very dangerous places was Tosin. I just think he did not have a good half at all the first half, let alone, I'd say he just didn't have a very good game. But giving away those balls in the midfield, that's what undid us every time, because it allowed Spurs to show just how quickly they counter and attack us.
Well, I want to come straight back to you, Don, because I know you've got an opinion on this. We looked very vulnerable at the back, didn't we? Spurs looked very good when attacking us. Of course, they're going to. They've got Son, they've got Kane, they've got Bale, Dele Alli. It's one of the most formidable attacking lineups on paper in Europe, I'd say. Son was given acres of space on the left every time they got forward, and at times it felt like it was just a matter of time before they added to the score. Do you think Scott missed a trick here by not playing 5 at the back?
The problem for me, 5 at the back, or if we're going to park the bus or whatever, is that you're really hoping for the breakaway, the quick attack, and I don't think we've really got that in our game, at least at the moment. I think the problem with us is we were playing 2 different styles. Okay, the game was 4 at the back when we were defending. But the minute we got the ball, we quickly seemed to convert over to 3 at the back, if you notice, most of the time. And what I mean by that is a lot of times Robinson was up there, either on the left, or you had Aina, going up as fast as he could. And that's what happened and allowed the goal to happen is we went from that 5 to 3. We gave away a bad pass. Spurs gets the ball. We're wide open and easy for us to be countered on and pass taken out wide for Son to take advantage of, So that's what I think undid us, was that how we were playing 2 different types of lineups, the 4 at the back, then 3 in the back attacking. So for me, I just wish we'd have had more, kept the 4 at the back most of the time, or if one of the outside wings is going to go forward, then one of those holding midfielders, Reid or Lamina, has got to hold more and stay back in the defense. That's just my thinking.
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? Because for that goal especially, the confusion between Anderson and Tosan there, it was just so confusing for us to even watch. It was like Tosan lost the ball, well past the halfway line, and when the ball kind of broke through, and you saw that formidable front 4 kind of just tearing away, I did assume the worst, and I thought it was going to be a more clean-cut goal than it was. I think we did okay to kind of shepherd them out, and then it was just kind of an unfortunate touch, wasn't it? I did mention as well that I thought Yoka there, when the ball kind of gets into the box, and I think it was Son on the left who had it. I think Robinson is in a fantastic position there to shepherd it, and he doesn't need help there. But Yoka just kind of drifts over towards the ball, and it makes it so much easier for Dele Alli to kind of impose himself in that space, which means Tosh is caught in 2 minds and has to kind of lunge over to try and stop the ball. So although I do think Tosh, I agree with you there, Don. I think he did have a tough, and I don't think he did himself any favours. But for the goal, I thought it was just a bit of a comedy of errors. But that it's few and far between we see that in the last couple of weeks, which makes it so much more difficult to take.
In an age when we seem desperate to disallow goals and give the advantage to the defenders, I've just sat here whilst you guys have been talking, and they've been slowing the goal down over and over again. I don't know what they're talking about because I've got the sound down on the TV, obviously, because we're recording. But just watching it, Harry Kane is miles offside and he's behind Tashin. So he must be 3 or 4 yards offside. Now, Tashin does not have eyes in the back of his head, and as that's been attributed as an own goal, is Harry Kane interfering with play? Because is Tashin thinking, I've got to touch this to take it away from the bloke who's behind me? So should the goal have been disallowed? I haven't thought about it until now, until I've just been watching it. But, it's surely a point, isn't it?
I think it's something to do with the order in which things happen. So the way in which when the ball comes across, I think the offside gets, or the interfering with play rather, gets cancelled out by the fact that it goes in first off Tosh. I know it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because the laws seem to overlap all the time, and you just sat there as a viewer, especially when we can't get into the ground. You just sat there wondering what the hell is going on and hoping that the commentators can make some sense of it.
Well, Mark, this is kind of something that drives me nuts. You talk about how the letter of the law and things like that. it makes me wonder, is that a case of the whole stupid, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to use that word, but it's stupid, this delay of offsides flag. There were several times in this match where they delayed the offside flag, and it causes our players to have to come out and defend really harsh and really quickly, If they would just give the offside right away when it's offside, a lot of this confusion and other BS wouldn't happen.
I think the rules need a massive overhaul, don't they? Especially now with VAR, the rules do need to be looked at, because it's becoming more and more frustrating as the weeks go by, and more teams are feeling hard done by. And for different reasons than they used to as well. If you came away from a game and you used to think, the referee was rubbish there, he's got it wrong, he hasn't seen this incident that's happened at 100 miles an hour at the time, that was okay. You kind of thought, well, it's human error. But now you've got these really weird rules that overlap with replays on the TV. And, it's not football as we know it, is it? That goal that we scored in the second half, we'll come on to it. I don't want to talk about it yet. We've got a couple of other points to come on to, but we'll come on to that. Before the first half ended, it looked like I just wanted to get to half time, just being one goal down, and then I thought that we'd have a good go at it in the second half. But we should have been level at half time. We should have been level. That chance from Lamina right on half time, where he's blasted the ball over from about 10 yards out. He's got to do better with that, hasn't he, Mark? He's got to at least hit the target.
Yeah, and it just adds up to that woeful amount of misses that I feel like it's just a merry-go-round at the moment. Every player's getting their chance to absolutely waste a golden chance in every single game. And, Lamina isn't the number one person you want that chance to fall to, let's be honest. But still, these guys need to be hitting the target, or at least, making a good effort out of it and testing the keeper there. I said it before on the last podcast we did, just about how many chances we're giving up, and you can talk about expected goals and things like that, but you can't really plan for the goalkeeper tipping it into the path of another player and a goal happening there. But we're just missing out on all these opportunities, and it feels so simple as well. And they come in really important moments in games for us where we're desperate to get a goal back into it. And when we see moments like that, and we had a couple more in the second half with headers, it's just so deflating.
Well, yeah, I'll come to you, Don, about that, because we did have a couple of really good chances right after half time. There was Anderson's header, which was tipped over by Hugo Lloris, which looked like it was possibly going over the crossbar anyway. And then from that corner, Tashin got a header on target. We were knocking on the door. Again, it comes down to the fact that we just don't seem to be able to convert set pieces.
Finishing and having a bit of luck is not currently Fulham's, strength or just not in their cards. I don't know what to do. It's one of those things where it's almost like you need everybody to break their first duck again, and just get on the streak. And once that duck's broken, everybody's going to start scoring left and right. And it's going to be, holy shit, they can't do no wrong. But we're just in this rut that we can't seem to break, where we can't score. I'm going to jump back real quick to you talking about that ball coming in, Lamina's chance and him skying the ball. A lot of people, again, were putting down Robinson for why is he starting, blah, blah, blah. But that chance came out of Robinson. And that chance also, I believe it started out with Anderson, who, oh my God, I think he had a phenomenal game. I just think Anderson was my man of the match easily. And we'll come back to that. But Robinson, a lot of people give him crap because, yeah, his crosses are not really happening. They're not doing a lot. But, man, he gets the ball there and he goes through 2-3 players getting it to the touchline and puts the ball across, where Josh Maja is able to lay it off quickly to give Lamina that chance. So I'm giving kudos to Robinson. I'm sorry. I thought he was a great choice for this match. He did a good job getting in several times, cutting inside, making little things happen. So
I agree
good job for Robinson.
I agree with you. I thought in the first half, Anthony Robinson was our best player. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a Jedi lover all season, to be honest. I think he's come in and stepped up and just, I think he's really taken to it. And the thing that I like the most about him is he's got in abundance, just like Addy has got, Adamola. He's got that kind of that burst, that energy, that he wants to be on the pitch, and he knows that every game he's fighting for his shirt, and it produces fantastic performances from him. And the way that he kind of orchestrates on the wing sometimes, he's I hear he's a great piano player too. He just knows what he's doing. And I think, like Dom said there, he had a chance, I think, when it fell to him on the edge of the box, and I thought maybe this is his chance. He tried to shift it onto the right foot, didn't he? But he just kind of scooped and clawed at it a little bit too much. But I think he'll get his time, and I genuinely think we've got a really solid player there that could stay at the club for a long time, which is pleasing.
All right, well, let's come on to the elephant in the room then, the disallowed goal. Let's discuss it. Point blank range, arm by his side. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, I know that Peter Walton came on to BT Sport tonight and said that if the ball hits the arm of an attacking player and it leads directly to a goal, then it has to be disallowed. But come on, that's bollocks, isn't it? That's absolutely bollocks. There was nothing he could do. It was kicked at him from point blank range. His arm wasn't in an unnatural position. It was down by his side, and it's just rebounded off his arm, and it's a great finish by Josh Maja. It's a goal, isn't it? Why are we disallowing goals like this? Why are we taking away goals of that quality? It's ridiculous, and that could cost us at the end of the season. That and many other things that we've, of our own doing, but we don't need things like that to go against us.
For me, it's one of the most contentious things in football right now. So if that's given at the other end of the pitch, and the commentators all said this, if that's given at the other end of the pitch, okay, no penalty is given because it'd be too harsh. Okay, well, now we're at the scoring side of the pitch. Literally, I truly believe this now because players know that handball is going to be given more times than not. There are so many players that they know they're in the box. They're 2 feet away from a player. They're just going to blast it in hopes that there's a handball given because there's nothing the player can do from 2 feet away. And he did a great job. He had his hand down by his side. It wasn't an intentional, he had his hand, up high or arm out or anything like that. So for it to be disallowed, I know it's the letter of the law. That's just as harsh as it gets. And it's just one more thing that is killing Fulham this season.
And for you, Mark, you must have an opinion on this.
Yeah, well, I'll actually raise you what you said there, Don, about it being one of the most contentious issues in football at the moment. And I think it's probably one of the most contentious issues that the Premier League has ever faced in terms of the rule book. This is a massive change, isn't it, what we've seen this season? We know that the Premier League and the FA aren't afraid to change the rule book halfway through a season. We've seen that already with the offside law. The thing that sticks for me is this kind of precedent we're making of having different rules of the game in different divisions. If you go down to non-league, conference, even in the football league, these kind of decisions aren't happening. Down there, a handball is seen for what it is, and the honesty of a player, although it's testing in the Premier League, is still taken into account, and accidental handballs are still a thing. It just upsets me that we're moving into this kind of world where, especially for Fulham, and you can categorise us as a bit of a yo-yo team at the moment. It's difficult, isn't it? One year you're telling your squad, this is the rule book, this is what you've got to play by, and the next year it's completely different. I understand with things like VAR, you've got to have a couple of adaptations into the rules, and I understand the reasons why we can't have VAR across the land. But in those scenarios, handball, I don't think VAR really does much to help it. I think if anything, it's impeding the game, and like Don said there, that's a massive point that that's a massive few points that we just dropped. And in the story of our season, it could be incredibly telling.
Well, I want to ask you guys, because I asked the guys at the weekend, in particular Collins John, because we had him on as a centre forward. But what do you guys think? Does Josh Maja warrant a place on the pitch when we're creating very little? He doesn't offer much other than finishing, does he? Or am I missing something, Don?
This is a tough one for me because who are you going to put in that place right now? It's either going to be Josh for me, Mitro, and the other person I'm going to give a shout out to, who I thought I had a very good game today would be Cavallero. Okay. A lot of people would scoff and they're going to laugh and they maybe are now turning off the pod because I mentioned Cavallero. But you've got to have a target man. If we're going to be playing this 4-2-3-1 system like we have been playing a lot, you got to have a target man. Even if you're going to play 4-4-2, you got to have a target man and then that second striker that plays off that target man. So we're just limited in options right now in that attack. So who are you going to pick? I personally think Josh Maja is looking pretty good. I thought he created some great chances. He did very well to hold up play, to bring in other players, to have goal-scoring opportunities. Now, sadly, they're not leading to goals in the back of the net. But I like him, I hope he actually sticks around. So I can't see dropping him right now. That's me.
I don't know. Well, the reason I put that question in was because I thought he did absolutely nothing. I mean, I know he created that chance for Lamina in the first half where he had his back to goal and he couldn't really do much else other than lay it off to the player who was running in. But I just think he's largely anonymous in games. And I like how he can finish. His finish for the goal that never was tonight was second to none. It was a great finish. But I don't think he offers much else other than that, whereas I think Mitrovic can defend and he can hold the ball up and bring other players in.
Okay, hold on. Let's be honest. If you've seen him play now, Josh just played 5 matches, right? I believe that he's had 5 now, 4 or 5. Josh Maja is nothing more than a fast, younger Mitro. What I mean by that is he's a man of opportunity. And I think, that's Mitro in a nutshell. Mitro's always been that guy, right place, right time, make things happen. I think Josh is just like that. So if you put balls in the box, I think Josh is going to do just as well as Mitro can. We're just not putting all those balls in.
Exactly. So if we're not putting those balls into the box, then what's the point? Yeah.
But the difference, again, is he's got speed. Mitro doesn't really have that speed and, the stamina right now. I think Josh does. So you've got a player that you can utilize his speed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll raise you Josh's speed with Mitro's reputation and Mitro's track record and the goals that he scored. Maja hasn't scored goals anywhere, really.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. If you want a guy right now in this league who is that strong, sit up top, receive the ball, bring other players in, or is going to make things happen, Mitro is that guy, okay? And I'm sad that he hasn't seen more game time. But I think if Josh gets that in his arsenal, that little more strength, learns to be able to hold the ball up more, bring people, he's Mitro's replacement. Younger version.
Not even replacement, because Mitro's, what is he, 25? He's still yet to hit his prime. He's still yet to hit his prime. I know he looks like he's a bit older, but I think
harsh life.
Yeah, quite. But there's a place for those two to play together eventually.
Oh, absolutely.
If we're creating the chances. But if we're not creating the chances, I'd rather have Mitro, who could create those chances for himself, than Maja.
And I'd be curious to hear what Mark would say about this. Okay, yeah, you say, let's do it. Let's go 4-4-2, okay? Mitro now is that guy up top. We drop Josh off his shoulder, and we let the two of them play together. Oh, my God, I think that could be really lethal, extremely lethal.
I know exactly why you want to do that, Don, and that's so you can get Ruben Loftus-Cheek out the team, isn't it? I know your game. I think the idea is interesting. I do. I wouldn't do it quite yet myself. I do like them playing together. I thought it was nice to see the pivot off each other. I think Mitrovic, we've said it. If we've said it once, we've said it 1,000 times. He's a confidence player. Whether he's ready to jump in and save our season in the dying embers, I'm not too sure. I would stick with Maja. I think the way we play with him in the team is slightly different, and I think in a way, I think we actually as a team have a bit more confidence playing with Maja up front, just because of the way that he can kind of break the lines. And obviously, like we said, his pace is also important for us there. I also want to highlight, just before we, if we don't move on to him, I thought Harrison Reid was, again, one of those just players today that just so classy. I thought he did his job brilliantly. I thought there were very few moments that he looked, off the pace. Again, I think the commentators did say that he's a bit of a snip at 8 million. I think compared to the players he's around, and Geese obviously had such a brilliant start to the season, he's slowly becoming my player of the season alongside Yoka and maybe Areola as well. I think Harrison Reid has just been fantastic for us.
Very difficult to argue with that, the way he's been playing, and Anderson as well. You're right; they're real stars of the season, and of course Areola as well. Let's just quickly talk about the substitutions that were made tonight. So Anguissa did come on for Loftus-Cheek right after the goal that never was. Then Mitrovic came on for Cavallero shortly afterwards. And then Joe Bryan came on for Anthony Robinson with 15 minutes of the game remaining. What were your thoughts on the changes? I mean, Don, I thought we were already the better side in the second half. So it was almost like we were trying to turn the screw and get the equaliser.
I think Parker was going for it. I think he absolutely said, we're going for this, that he wasn't going to mess around, And for once, with the exception of bringing Bryan on there at the end, he didn't go defensive-minded saying, I'm going to take out, Robinson and bring on Tete or something like that, okay? So for me, I had no problem with, I need some fresh legs, kind of in that midfield. I'm going to bring Anguissa in right off the bat, and I'm bringing in Mitro. I'm going for it. So one thing I will say real quick, you're talking about how we were the better team in the second half, and I think a lot of that led to how immediately they changed player positions. And what I mean by that is Parker immediately changed Lookman out to the left-hand side, and he put Loftus-Cheek back in the middle. And I think two things there. Loftus-Cheek being in the middle, well, I don't really see him offering anything. I could do without him. He is a strong player, and that's what is killing Fulham right now, is they don't have that strong killer midfielder that can really make things happen. Loftus-Cheek gets lucky. He gets the ball. He goes through 2-3 players, but there's no end product. Lookman out on the left again, though, that really brings out the best in Lookman and allows him to get forward and make things happen. So I think that change really helped control the game there in the beginning of the second half and made things really happen. And we can talk about how Loftus-Cheek, if we could just get a Loftus-Cheek that could score and do better things like a Danny Murphy or something, we could really unlock this fucking team.
You don't want much, do you?
I'm just saying. I'm sorry, but that's the key that's missing right now, is Loftus-Cheek is not doing his thing. And maybe Mark, is probably more of a Robin Loftus-Cheek guy than I am a fan. But I don't see the money that we're paying for him and the outcome of what we get out of him for the value.
But the money aside, and the fact that he's on loan from Chelsea and his reputation aside, I've asked this before, and I don't think I've asked it to you guys, so it'd be good to get your opinion as well. But we expected to get this ready-made Premier League goal scorer who was an England international from Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And it hasn't quite worked out the way that we hoped it would because he came to us and he was injured and he was looking to get his form back, and that's why he came to us. I mean, if he was the player that if he'd reached his full potential, then he probably wouldn't have come to us. He probably would have been at Chelsea knocking on the door of their first team this season. So Are we judging Ruben Loftus-Cheek on what we thought he would be this season, or are we judging him on what we're seeing? Go on, Mark.
I'm judging him on what I'm seeing, and what I'm seeing is absolutely just not up to the par, to be honest. I think, did we expect some sort of world beater? I don't know. Other people might have. I didn't. We've seen Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and funny enough, one of the only times that I've seen him perform really quite well was in a cameo against us at Stamford Bridge a couple of years ago when he came on and scored. Or I thought he was really good. Then. But I think if you're not performing for Fulham this season, and I mean, he had an okay spell at Crystal Palace before, didn't he? I mean, he was decent there. That's the best I can get out of it.
I think the Palace fans really like him, though.
Yeah, I mean, the Palace fans can really like him, and the Palace fans also really like Christian Benteke. It doesn't make him an amazing player. I just find with Ruben Loftus-Cheek, every single week you want more out of him. And for a player that's playing in such an important position, we go on every week at players and we can talk about the strikers all we want. But if the person sitting behind them isn't doing their job properly, then it's such a difficult nut to crack. And I understand what's been going on with TC, and obviously he's had his injury problems, but the other creative players that could play in that position just aren't really available. It's just difficult. And seeing the news that Scott is interested in signing him and getting him on a full term, I think Thomas Tuchel will be happy with that. I really do. I think Thomas Tuchel will look at that. Maybe the Chelsea hierarchy won't agree with it because I know Chelsea like their loan model, but to be honest, if he's not showing any kind of performance levels for us, then they're not going to want him back down at Cobham in August. I can tell you that, and to be honest, I think if we do end up signing him, it's just going to be another player that sits on the wheel and just does nothing. He's got a lot to prove.
Yeah, but I think the financial side of that is needs to be taken into consideration, doesn't it? Because if he costs us 30 million, then arguably we're not getting value for money. But if he costs us 5 million, then I'd probably take it. Because
you're never getting him for 5 million, I'm afraid. You're never doing it.
I know. That's why I'm saying. That's why I'm saying that the financial side of it comes into it more than the ability side of it, right?
Yeah, it could just be for Loftus-Cheek another season on the bench at Chelsea, and then the season after another loan to a promoted club.
Okay, let's talk the financial side, and this is where I'm not trying to give Tony Khan a high five or anything, but what if instead of that 30 million, 8 million or something, Khan and company turns around and finds an Anderson-like midfielder, okay, who can take the place. I mean, he's done a great job there finding Anderson. I mean, he was phenomenal today. I mean, the runs he made, not just in defense, but bringing the ball out of the back, what if instead of paying 30 million for Loftus-Cheek and us making Chelsea richer and happier that he's not on their books anymore, we get lucky and Tony Khan goes out and finds a better number 10 for a third of the price. That's my dream and hope, at least.
It just all depends on what league we're in, doesn't it, Don?
It does. There's so many ifs, buts, and maybes at the moment, and there's also a lot of question marks over, the types of players that Tony Khan signed in the past. I mean, he for every Anderson that he's brought in on loan, he's brought in Marcelo Giallo. So or Rui Fonte for 9 million. So
was Tim Hoogland a Tony Khan signing?
Oh, yeah, I think he was. I think he was. Yeah, that would have been 2015. So maybe not. I'm not sure.
But on the positive side, okay. Well, Tony Khan has had some total cock-ups. Just what he was thinking. Yeah, he has had some great bring-ins though. He's brought in Tosin, who's done well. Anderson, Aina, Tete. I mean, these are guys who have all done really well. Robinson.
Yeah.
So,
who doesn't make mistakes? That's my point.
Oh yeah.
There've been a lot of mistakes, and he'll always be judged on his mistakes more so than his successes. Because how many people slag off Tony Khan because we're in the bottom three in the Premier League and because we did terribly 2 years ago? But how many people give him credit for the fact that we did get promoted at Wembley against Aston Villa? We did get promoted at Wembley against Brentford. You judge more on your failures, more so than your successes, and he always will be. And I hope we do stay up, because it would be the Khan's biggest success so far if we did stay up this season.
Okay, I got to say, I'm down here in Georgia, so we would say, "Go on, preach, brother, preach."
Now that I feel that we've ticked off all the major Fulham points for the season, we've done Tony Khan, we've done Mitro. We're ticking them all off. I just want to add in a slightly more niche one from tonight, and that's Joe Bryan's haircut. I don't know if either of you clocked it. He was supporting an awful trim, one of his worst. But that made me feel so much. I loved it. It's good to see someone rocking a full lockdown haircut, a full lockdown mane, knowing that he hasn't had a celebrity barber pop round his house and do it for him. So shouts out to Joe Bryan for that.
That is just one of the guys. everything I've seen about him on Instagram and everything else, I just love him. He is just a down-to-earth, straightforward person, no messing around. So I thought that haircut was perfect, absolutely perfect.
Or lack of haircut. It was, just a classic. Yeah, I haven't had my haircut for a few months, but who cares? Yeah, fair play. Let's get back to the football, shall we? Let's get back to tonight's game. Let's come on to the dying stages of the game. There was a great save with around 7 minutes left when Harry Kane looked odds on to score. Areola smothered the ball. You just thought he scored, didn't you, Mark?
It was one of those, wasn't it? You just kind of, with every mind in your body, you just think. And I don't know about you guys, but my stream's a little bit behind, and I shouldn't have it, but I've got notifications on my phone, so I'm seeing things happen a little bit too early, and it's just one of those where you're just praying, aren't you? But knew straight away.
Yeah,
those notifications are the thing that drives me nuts. So you guys in the WhatsApp group, I turn you guys off. I don't read or listen to the WhatsApp group because inevitably, if I'm watching the game, it starts beeping with all the notifications from you guys. And if I hear like 1,000 beeps go off in 30 seconds, I know something bad's either happened or Fulham scored. And I don't want to know because if I look, it's always they've been scored against. So I turn it off.
Don't blame you. Don't blame you. And not only for that reason, but for every other reason as well, for all the other conversations that go on in that group. All right, well, let's come on to the man of the match then. Don, who would you give man of the match to tonight? Tough one, I think. It's always a tough one when we've lost.
Again, several great players I thought had some really good chances tonight and did some great things. I'm going with Anderson because not only did he do a great job in the defense, there were several times, again, he calmly collects the ball, sees an opening, carried the ball. There's like twice he did this, all the way past the midfield, lays it off to like Aina or Lamina or somebody who he continues his run, and unfortunately the ball is not put through for him to continue and do something with. So he makes these fantastic runs out of the back. He's just so calm more times than not. I only saw like once or twice maybe where he made a little mistake. Luckily it amounted to nothing. So he's my guy. Could have easily gone with Reid every game. He's got to be one of the first names on the team sheet. And the other person is Cav. I thought Cav actually had a great game too. So Anderson, but I could have gone with a couple others.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think you're right. And the tragedy of this season, if we don't stay up, will be that Anderson will definitely not stay. We don't know if he'll stay anyway, even if we do stay up. But it will be a damn shame to lose him because he's absolutely brilliant, both as a player and as a leader, I think. But for me tonight, my man of the match would have been Anthony Robinson just for his performance in the first half. I know he was withdrawn in the second half, but I thought he had a really good game, both at the back and getting forward. He was really determined. He was beating players. And I thought it was one of his better games for the club, to be honest. How about for you, Mark?
Yeah, well, this must be a first. We're picking three different players. I alluded to it earlier. I thought Harrison Reid or Steve Sidwell 2.0 was just, sublime. I just think, considering the opposition he was up against, and Ndombele is no one easy to handle, especially when you don't have the physicality of Anguissa there to deal with it. I just thought he stepped up to the plate really well, as he has done on a number of occasions this season.
Fair play. All right, let's come on to a Scott Parker rating. I'm going to go first for this one because unusually I'm going to give him a high rating because I thought we were very good tonight. As we come into the run-in, I think we've got 11 games to go. Scott Parker's known as quite a defensive manager, I think, and quite a cautious manager, but I didn't see that from him tonight. And he's obviously reacting to the situation that we're in and thinking we've got to go for this. And in the first half, defensively, we didn't look great, but we held out and only conceded one goal. And in the second half, it was all us. We had the higher amount of possession. We were really attacking. We were really going for it. And against a side that had Harry Kane, Son, all right, Bale was taken off, but Dele Alli as well. We really were the better side in the second half. And I'm going to give him 8 out of 10. How about for you, Mark?
I thought he did well. I thought the substitutions I mean, look, I feel like every single fan wants earlier substitutions, and every single manager wants later substitutions. They want to see the team that they chose doing the job that they want them to do. So, I'm not going to knock him too much for bringing on players too late. I'm going to give him 7 Scott Parkers out of 10 Scott Parkers.
And for you, Don?
I understand what Mark is saying. I actually kind of thought the opposite. I thought for once Scott brought players on slightly earlier than normal. To me, it really irritates me when managers are trying to make a change and they don't do it until the 82nd minute, 85th minute. Whereas he was starting to make changes in the 70th, 75th type minutes. So for me, I give Scott an 8, and I'm going to say an 8 for various reasons. We were very unlucky that the goal didn't count. We didn't at least get a point out of this, and that's not Scott's problem. I think he did everything right. And what I mean by that is he realized first half they're taking advantage of us. So he switched things up, and he switched Lookman and Loftus-Cheek, their roles, which changed everything immediately in the first half. And then I think his substitutions were right on time and pretty much right on the money. The minute Anguissa came on, we had some fresh legs. We really started taking it back to him. And then when he brought Mitro in, I thought everything really did happen to where we were going at him good, really well. So it's unlucky that we didn't get a point. I really do feel like this is one of those games that we were really harshly done. We should have gotten a point out of this. So no fault to Parker. Give him an 8.
Well, Sonia's just WhatsApped me. Sonia Twigg, she's just been at the press conference with Scott Parker. And Scott Parker has commented on VAR, and this is a direct quote. "We are trying to make the game so pure and so sterile and trying to control every single phase to an absolute T, and that's where the problem lies for me." And he also added that VAR is killing the goal celebration, excitement, and ruining the raw emotion of football, which I really think sums up how many of us feel about VAR and how we feel about football this season. And before we got promoted to the Premier League even this season, why we were kind of saying, well, if we don't go up, at least we won't have to worry about VAR. And, without VAR, all right, it's a rule problem tonight, as Baldwin would say, that's caused that goal to be ruled out. It's a rule, but it's a rule that wouldn't have been applied if it wasn't for VAR, right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and it's similar to what I said earlier about how this kind of mentality of having to chop and change the rule book every single time. Maybe there's like a big, 18,000-page document that lands on the desk at Motspur Park every time we get promoted to the Premier League, letting Scott and the team know about all the different changes. It's just a shame, that, like we said, it's costing us, and to see Scott call it out for what it is it's pleasing to see, and I think Scott is usually on the forefront of a lot of this kind of stuff, and I think he is happy to put his money where his mouth is. So I'm pleased to see that.
I'm going to throw in just one thing, as positive as I can be, and then we can move on to your Liverpool or whatever, and we can end this section of the pod. Doesn't matter about VAR, whether or not it's in the championship or we're going to be dealing with it next year, because we are going to be dealing with it next year. We are going to stay up, and we will be dealing with it again because we will be in the Premier League again next year.
What was it you said earlier, brother? Preach.
I'm trying. Raise your hands if you still believe. That's all I got to say. Just raise your hands if you still believe.
Love it. All right, let's leave it there then. Let's come on to the weekend's game against Liverpool.
Fulham.
All right, lads. Well, it's another game this weekend. We've got Liverpool at Anfield on Sunday. But before we go to that, there's some other games that we should have a look at. So there's 2 games on Saturday. There's Burnley against Arsenal at 12:30, lunchtime on Saturday. And then there's Brighton against Leicester at 8 p.m. on Saturday as well. Let's come to you and get your predictions for these games. I'm going to do this for every game, every podcast that I present where there's games coming up. So, Don, let's first of all get your prediction for Burnley versus Arsenal. Do you think Burnley are going to get anything from that?
Arsenal seems to have kind of come into a little bit of a stride. So I am hoping that they are going to take all 3 points. I'm going to say 2-1. But
2-1
sadly,
Arsenal.
but I could see Burnley, all of a sudden, just Fulham's luck getting 3 points or another point out of it. So, I mean, they've also done fairly well lately. So
I'm going to keep asking about Burnley until they pull themselves clear, but I kind of expect them to pull themselves clear just off the back of their home form, because they always do. They're that bloody pain in the arse side, but they're still within range at the moment. So we'll still keep them in consideration until they do get clear. How about you, Mark? Do you see Arsenal getting anything at Burnley?
I'm not too sure, really. I had a temptation to reply just then with how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer replied to an interviewer as Cardiff manager when they asked him whilst he was in a relegation dogfight about what he thought about Liverpool's title chances, and he said, I think he said, I don't care. I think he said, I couldn't care less. I'm just so interested in Fulham's results at the moment. But no, I think Burnley, aren't they? And whether Arsenal have got anything left in the tank following their European exploits is another question. I think Sean Dyche will make it a slugfest, and I think he'll do that, knowing full too well that a single goal can nick it. Whether he can keep Arsenal quiet is another thing. But I'm predicting a 1-0. Can't choose either way though.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll check those splinters on your arse on Sunday morning, mate. I'll come straight back to you then for Brighton Leicester, which is on Saturday evening at 8:00. That's probably more important to us. We could really do with Leicester doing us another favour as they did against Burnley this week when they got a point against them.
Yeah, absolutely. Brighton in the form table, if you cut it in half, are absolutely flying, aren't they? Whether they can get another result is a tough one. I think they offer a lot as well going forward, and obviously they've kind of kept themselves at a steady pace away from us in this relegation fight. There was a moment where I thought they may kind of get sucked back into it, but they seem to be a little bit head and shoulders at the moment. I'm going to go with a 1-0 Brighton win, actually.
Oh, God. Good grief. That's not what we want to hear. That is not what we want to hear. That is the last thing we want to hear. I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go 1-0. What do you reckon, Don?
I got a feeling. I don't know. I think 2-0. I think Leicester wins.
Okay. Yeah, that's more like it. That's more like it. That's what we want to hear.
And, I think they're going to figure out how to get balls faster up to Vardy, and he's going to be a big goal scorer this time.
Yeah. Mark, you don't reckon Vardy's going to score?
No, he's past it, mate. He's past it.
That's good, because we haven't got to play Leicester again this season, so you can say that. All right. And then Sunday lunchtime at midday is West Brom versus Newcastle, which is probably the biggest game this weekend, aside from Fulham's trip to Anfield. So, West Brom, Newcastle, who do we want to win that? Well, I think I want West Brom to win that. Don, what do you reckon?
I agree, and actually, I could see it happening. Newcastle's without two of its main players there. I could see Newcastle actually coming down and being right in the thick of the struggle. So I could see them losing. I think they're going to lose by at least 0-1. Newcastle loses.
I'm gonna be really bold and say 3-0 West Brom. What do you reckon, Mark? What do you reckon, Mark?
I mean, it's perfectly set up for Newcastle to crumble, isn't it? I saw the news midweek that Matt Ritchie and Steve Bruce apparently had a bust up at the training ground. So fingers crossed it won't come back to bite me and Matt Ritchie scores 3. No, I'm going to back I'm going to back Big Sam on this one. I really want him to get the job done over them. I don't think West Brom have got nearly enough in the tank to launch a relegation fight, but they're now at kind of tantalising period where there's still hope for them. So there's still chance of them picking up a result. I've got my eye on Conor Gallagher as well. I think he's a fantastic player. So I'm going to back him to score 2, and they're going to win 2-0.
That'll do. All right, let's come on to our game then. Liverpool at Anfield on Sunday, 2:00 kickoff. Don, do you see any changes to the lineup? 3 days.
Do I see changes that I would like to see, or do I see Parker making some changes? Because I don't see him
either.
So a couple of things there. I would have no problem with the same back four starting, including Robinson. I think, he does offer things going forward. Does he need to improve on his crosses? Absolutely. But I still think he brings a lot to the team. Would I be upset if he was put back on the bench and Tete was put in his place? No, not at all. Would I be upset that, let's say, Lamina maybe goes back to the bench and Tete steps in his place instead? No, not at all. So there are a few changes I think that could happen. The one person that I wish I could bring into the lineup, and I could only see that happening if Loftus-Cheek goes to the bench, which does not break my heart. We put Cav in the middle, and we put Bobby back out on the right. I just like the speed of Bobby, and I like his creativeness, and he does a really good job of coming back and helping with defense. So I personally wouldn't mind Cav going to the middle and Bobby out to the right. That'd be my big change. Keep Lookman on the left. Don't have him start in the middle.
Cav in the middle in place of Madger.
Which one, Lookman or Cav?
No, Cav. Would you play Cav in the middle?
No. I want Cav to take Loftus-Cheek's role. Loftus goes to the bench.
I see what you mean. Sorry.
Josh Maja still stays up top. Now, again, I also wouldn't mind seeing maybe we switch to a 4-4-2. Maybe you don't do it right away because of match fitness for Mitro, but a little bit earlier in the game, if we need to, let's bring in Mitro and have Maja playing off Mitro. And again, switch to a 4-4-2 in my mind. So,
how about for you, Mark?
I do think there'll be another fullback change, especially if we're expecting Alexander-Arnold and Robertson to sit behind their usual Mane and Salah kind of route. Just because I think Tete does offer us a little bit more protection in that role. I don't know what kind of game I'm expecting, to be honest, because the last time we played them, albeit with fans in the stadium, it was electric, wasn't it? I think we're talking about whether players will come in. I don't think he'll start, but I do seem to be forgetting that Josh Onoma was on the bench all night tonight. Less enthused about Kongolo, who was also on the bench, but for Onoma's sake, I think there's a chance that if this game does become unfortunate and we're a couple of goals down at half time, I don't think there'll be any harm in bringing him on. I think he's still. I've said it on pods gone by. We're still looking for our Ashkan Dejaga, our kind of flash in the pan towards the end of the season. So if someone can come in and step up for the last few games, then why not?
This is the thing for these three games as well, isn't it? You can if you get anything out of Spurs at home, Liverpool away, Man City at home, then they're bonus points, aren't they? You don't expect necessarily as a club like us to get any points out of those games. So, if we are losing, then why not? Why not try and bleed somebody else into the side and get them ready for the run-in? It would be absolutely fine. I'm going to come back to you and ask you guys how you see the game going. I mean, Liverpool have lost they've lost all four of their last home games as we're recording this. They're playing Chelsea as we record this at the moment at home. So who knows how that's going to go. But their home form, having not lost at home for God knows how long, so many matches, has been appalling. And out of those games, Brighton have won up there, Burnley have won up there, Everton have won there. So, it's not beyond the realms that we could get something, but when you're scrapping for your lives and you need something and you go to Liverpool, then it's one of those ones before the game that you're not necessarily going to think, well, we're going to go and win this. So, Don, how do you see the game going?
I am hoping that Fulham get to capitalize on a tired squad, and that's kind of the way I see watching Liverpool and everything right now. They just look tired. They didn't really change up the squad from last season to this. They've been playing so many games, and that's one of the Jurgen Klopp's biggest complaints is, all the matches and blah, 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 and small squad, blah, 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 amount of what's his other big complaint? Amount of subs they don't have, lack of. So I'm hoping that Parker makes maybe one or two slight changes, keep some fresher legs on the pitch, and we take it to him that this could actually be a time that we could take advantage of key players being out from Liverpool, them currently losing to Chelsea. I believe I just looked and they're down by 1. So hopefully, I think we could get something out of this. I really do.
Well, we're still on 23 points, Mark. And I think 35-36 keeps us up. So we need another 12, 13 points out of the remaining 11 games. How do you see this one going?
For me, I think I'm just looking at Newcastle and us, and I'm not putting any kind of points prediction on it. And I think all we have to do is better the Newcastle result once before we play them on the final day by getting a win where they don't, or grabbing a couple of draws where they don't, and that's the most important thing for us. We've shown we can cut it with these teams. This is a strange season, and like we performed against them last time, I think again we can go to Anfield, and if we're making records this season by getting our first win on Merseyside soil at Everton, then why can't we do it at Anfield? So maybe we'll get the chance to put a couple in the net and not have to deal with those those fans behind the Kop and come away with 3 points. I don't know whether I actually want to officially predict that we're going to beat them, because I'm not interested in the backlash when we get bopped 4-0. So I'm going to say it's going to be it's being an interesting game, and I'm looking forward to it.
You really are going to need those splinters removed from your arse. You really are. Because I'm literally just about to ask what your score prediction is, and you're saying you're not going to predict it. So come on, Don.
All right, hold on.
Give me something.
So tell the truth now. With that in mind, who waffles more, Mark or J-Mac?
Waffles more? I don't know. I think if you're asking me who waffles the most, then you haven't put Baldwin into the mix.
You have to allow at least like a 2-hour podcast if me and J-Mac are on together.
Come on, Don. Right. What's the score going to be at Anfield?
2-1, Fulham win.
2-1, Fulham win. Bloody hell. All right.
Yep.
All right, well.
Maja will get 1, and then we're going to have somebody's going to come out of nowhere, and we're going to have like this, oh my God,
Josh Onama.
Aina or Lamina goal.
Josh Onama.
Josh Onama. All right.
There you go. Or, I don't know, Arl's Robin Loftus-Cheek all of a sudden comes good, and he scores a hat trick.
How's he scoring a hat trick if it's 2-1? All right. Well, I don't know.
He'll score a hat trick, and one will be called back, sadly, because of VAR.
Yeah, but the ball would have hit his arm when it was behind his back. Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know. I don't see us winning at Anfield, I've got to say, especially if they lose to Chelsea tonight. If that's 5 on the bounce, and we're going there, and maybe we get a point. I don't know, but a point, 1 point from these 3 games, Spurs, Liverpool, Man City would be great in the grand scheme of things. So I would take a point.
It'd be phenomenal, especially if Newcastle just keeps losing.
We've got to hope that they do. We've got to hope that they don't pull anything out of the bag as well. All right, well, I think that's probably more than enough for one show. So thanks, chaps. Our next show will be out on Monday morning as we look back at the very tricky trip to Anfield. I'll have Stato and Will with me for that show. In the meantime, thanks for listening. Have a great weekend and speak to you soon. Cheers.
Fulham.